Macy, what's your weakest signal?
Yeah, I was just reading about insect scale, fast-moving, ultra-robust soft robots. So really targeting mobility and robustness as like engineering challenges. They've developed a 3 centimeter by 1.5 centimeter soft robot that has a curved body and like structure that essentially moves like a cockroach and mimics animal locomotion. So it can move up to 20 body lengths and carry a load of 1 million times its weight. It's currently the fastest measured artificial insect scale robot. It was just interesting in terms of thinking about mimicking nature and also kind of the rise of soft robotics. It was interesting reading about it, and also just seeing how it moves and being able to sustain weight and still be alive, so to say. And also thinking about potential uses for something like this that, can climb into crevices like insects, be able to sustain itself within certain environments that just other things cannot get into.
Do they put them into play with one another? Like, are there forms of collective swarm intelligence? Because that's often why people are interested in insects, is like the swarming aspect of inspiration, right? Where higher level intelligence emerges from low level nothingness, right? Like just a yes, no kind of a decision.
I don't think they've looked into like swarm or like collective behavior in this study. It's mainly around locomotion and robustness.
I'm curious about what the possible applications are. I like the idea of like some kind of like new off-road vehicle that's modeled after a cockroach that like a human could operate.
Mm-hmm. The first thing that comes to mind for me is espionage. So I think like that's like whenever we think about robotic insects, seems to be the clearest like use cases. Innocuous monitoring devices, right? Like if there's like a cockroach that's physically indistinguishable from a real, although you might step on it.
But it can withstand the weight of a human stepping on it, so it will still last.
Yeah. That's what I think is like actually the key thing for like what is the use case of this. The first thing I thought was like, you can't kill a cockroach. Like
I know
where do you need situations where you need a robot that people will be trying to kill all the time?
Like, aren't cockroaches like the one kind of organism that have survived like multiple extinction events or things like that?
Mm-hmm. That's what they say, yeah.
And like, if we're about to go through an apocalypse, maybe we are, maybe we're not. Like, shouldn't we be studying the cockroach for its like ability to withstand like apocalyptic events?
So it's a model for our strategic evolution.
Yeah, exactly. We should all live in cockroach bunkers that are just built and shaped like cockroaches.
We should all try to make our future descendants more cockroach-like.
It'd be good as like a like if you were to go into like cryogenic stasis, like instead of having like a doer, like a pod that just sits in the facility, you would just turn the pod into a giant cockroach, and then it could roam around. And it, can get away from trouble and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure there's a thought experiment. I think it's Daniel Dennett's thought experiment about something like that, like a future where people are all sort of in these mobile pods and
we'll all survive the next apocalypse.
Signal and noise suited.
I think like the attention towards cockroaches at this time to me is a signal. That is a signal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think signal. I think this is like another part of this long-standing interest amongst roboticists when it comes to insect mobility and decision-making and all these types of things. And I think for a long time, it was purely conceptual, like back in the 90s. We were starting to make some small strides, but like as Valda says, now we see like real applications of things like swarm technology, swarms of drones that are replacing fireworks displays and things like that. So there's like probably a lot of the early applications will be in entertainment, but I think this is like another part of that like unfolding fascination with insect cognition and mobility.
Valdes?
I mean, to be contrarian, I would say for those reasons, I would say it's less signally, but I would say actually, JR, that instance that you gave of like the cryogenic cockroach looking pods, that's like the moment that becomes a signal to me of like, what are the specific, like we need a comparative insectology for like what all these robots might be put to use for. And that I don't think I've seen particularly interesting work on. Yeah, what can we imagine like silk producing robotic spiders being put to use for? How could we repurpose pollination behavior for something else, I don't know what that would be, but not to impregnate flowers, but other kinds of behaviors. And this kind of like insect behavior cabinet for robotics would be very interesting, I think.
Strategic rewilding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I would have maybe gone noise just because it's like, okay, like the nerds are doing robot biomimicry still. But through the conversation, I'm convinced of many signals here. So I say both signal and noise.